Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of In the Umpire's Clubhouse. I'm Bob Busser, that's Dale Scott, that's Jimmy Joyce, and we've got a rocking show for you today, a guest return. Finally, he gets to meet Dale and Jimmy. We're welcoming still New England drummer and solo artist Hirsch Gardner. Hirsch, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, guys. It's great to be here.
Glad to
How you
have
doing,
you,
Hirsch?
Hirsch. Another fellow drummer, although I think you did much better than I did is in the drumming profession.
Maybe you'll be able to show me some of the rudiments that they taught you back then. I could use a couple lessons, man.
Well,
Okay, now
That's what I got to see.
we just have to qualify this for the folks out there. Please try to keep your eyes glued to Dale and not to that monstrosity behind him.
that was me in marching band my sophomore year.
Oh my Lord.
Hey Dale, you had hair and it wasn't gray, so it's a good thing. Oh my God. So Hirsch, I know you've got a new CD out. You want to tell
Yep.
us about it? I'm gonna let you talk about it because it's your baby and it's a good one. I've heard a part of it. I love it. It's really good.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, this is my third solo album, and it's called Third Time's a Charm, and it's on Deco Entertainment. Deco's Deko. And anybody who's interested in buying it, why not? There's a shameless plug here. You go
That's
to
why we're here.
yeah, decoentertainment.com, and then there's a slash and then Hirsch dash Gardner. So you can find me. I'm all over the web anyway, man. The rock star thing has been kind. So just Google my name and you'll probably find some stuff. But yeah, this is my third solo album. Like I said, I'm always writing songs, and I really don't say, okay, I'm going to put out a new album. It just kind of like evolves because I'm just always writing. So I had 10 or 11 songs in the can, and a friend of mine suggested that I do a couple of New England songs after he heard a rough version of "Don't Ever Want to Lose You," which was our Billboard Top 40 hit single back in the day. And he said, "Man, the new version you did sounds so incredible." He said, "Why don't you do a couple of the New England songs?" So I started experimenting. And of course, I have my own band. It's called the Hirsch Gardner Project, and we play around. And of course, I do cover a bunch of New England songs live. So I recorded six New England songs that were on one of our three albums back in the day. And the people that I was playing the songs for just were like flipping out. It's going, man, that sounds incredible. It's great. It's kind of like a 2024 version of a 45-year-old song.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
absolutely.
with all the technology that we have today, the sounds were just incredible. I have some amazing guest artists playing on those songs with me, and the album just kind of evolved. It's six original songs out of the 11 or 12 that I recorded, and then the six New England songs. So it's kind of unique in that respect because it's split in half, and yeah, and the reviews so far are very, very kind, and I'm very proud of that. So
Fantastic. You brought up technology, and I'm curious, what year did you start recording? Was that in the 70s, mid 70s?
oh, at least I mean
Yeah.
I've been interested in recording since I was in my first band in Toronto back in 66, 67.
Oh,
I had
okay.
an old yeah, I had an old two-track Tandberg reel-to-reel deck,
Oh,
if anybody
gee.
remembers what those were.
Yes,
And
I do.
yeah, and
Boat anchors.
I was recording back then. So, the interest in recording has always been there. In the early days of New England, I had a four-track recorder, and much the same as, and I'm not comparing myself to these guys, but the Beatles, when they recorded, they only had like a four-track at the beginning. And what they would do is they would record four tracks and then they would bounce those four tracks to another recorder and then bounce those tracks back to the four track and then keep on bouncing. And that's how the Beatles had this extremely lush recording way back then. Well, we were doing the same thing. The methodology is not unique. Um, so from there, I just expanded my horizons and started recording in 16 and 24 track recording studios. So the interest has always been there. Of course, now everything's digital, so it's a completely different game.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at is just the technology, how much it's changed. From I see you mentioned the Beatles. You see old footage of like a concert. They've got a couple of amps there, or whatever. I mean, there's nowadays. Go to a concert. You see the whole. I don't know what you call it, but that's away from the stage, center stage, back that does all the mixing. I mean, that thing looks like they're going to launch a space shuttle or something with all the technology. But it must have changed so much in your career. And was it when all these new, like you said, digital or whatever, but was it tough to adapt to it, or was it pretty easy to go right into the new technology as it changed every other month, it seems like?
Yeah, it's a great question, really great question, because I'm really, really lucky and one of the fortunate ones that recorded in the analog world in the old days. Originally it was like the 4-track recorders, and then they went up to 16 and then 24. And then, and the 24-track recorders that we were using back there were $150,000 to $200,000 each. And then we would link up two 24-track recorders.
Jesus.
So we'd have 48 tracks.
Wow.
But all of that background gave me the education where when the digital world started happening, I was still able to use a lot of the concepts that were developed back in the analog world, and was able to do it digitally now, which just made things so much easier, so much quicker, so much cleaner in terms of the actual sound quality that you're getting. Let me give you an example. I think on I forget which album, the first or second album that I did one song that was about a 4-minute song, where the first 3 minutes were all a cappella, which just all me singing vocals. So I had my lead vocal, and then I had 96 tracks of me singing background vocals.
Wow.
So it's one guy ending up sounding like a choir. Now, back in the old days when you had analog, you could still do that. Listen to any Queen album, even back as far as the Beach Boys, the Carpenters. They were all doing that multi-tracking of vocals. But when
wasn't Neil Sedaka famous for that?
You know what?
Neil Sedaka sang every background, everything in his albums back in the late 50s and early 60s. I'm still stuck in the 60s.
Yeah.
and he did every single one of his tracks, just like you're talking about, and he also played the instruments too. And I was fascinated by that, because I was reading your background and I instantly thought of that. I said, not only does this guy just play the drums, you basically did it all. I mean, you did it from start to finish. And then not only that, you played guitar too. Aren't I correct on that also?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing to me. That absolutely amazes me. That's like a five star hitter, or a player that, he does it all. He's got all 5 tools.
Well, let me jump in real quick. I want to. There are some guys out there that are multi-instrumentalists, like Prince, for instance.
Oh, God.
Rest in peace.
Wow.
But now Prince he actually plays guitar like a pro. He plays keyboards like a pro. I mean, you've all seen the videos of him. He's an amazing singer. He's a great performer. He plays bass, plays guitar, plays keyboards, plays everything. He is at the top of his game in each one of his instruments. I, on the other hand, and I just want to clarify this because people are calling me, instrumentalist. I'm a lead singer. I'm a drummer. I play a little bit of guitar, enough to be able to outline on my songs what I want to do. And some of the tracks that you hear on my new album are actually me playing through the whole song. It sounds great. But I have serious limitations when it comes to comparing myself to somebody like Joe Filoni, who's my regular guitar player, and keyboards. Jimmy Waldo, my keyboard player in New England. What I'll do is I'll play a Hammond organ track on my synthesizer, right? And then I'll send it to Jimmy and I'll say, now, here's my idea, Jimmy. I want you to play it like a real Hammond organ player would play. And I do the same thing with Joe Filoni, my guitar player. I'll play this, chugga, 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 chugga guitar track, and it'll sound pretty cool, but I'll want it to sound, like, top
Super
level.
cool.
Yeah. So I'll send that chugga, chugga, chugga guitar track to my guy, Joe, and he'll go, "Oh, Hirsch, I get it. I see what you want." And he'll play it, and it'll sound amazing. So I just want to clarify, the multi-instrumentalist thing is coming up a lot in a lot of my interviews, and I would rather be, very honest and forthright and transparent about, hey, this is actually what I do. Yeah, I play all those instruments, but not like somebody like Prince. Oh my
Well,
God.
you did give Joe big time kudos in the stuff that I read. You actually quoted as saying, or I can quote it as saying, that he's the best guitar player that you've ever heard.
Yeah,
So
Joe's amazing. He's just an amazing guitar player. And it's great that he's got such a a connection with me, because when he hears my little chugga chugga parts, he'll turn that into a badass guitar part.
right.
And I really, really do appreciate, all those efforts. Now, there's one of the songs on there called "Reach Out for Love." I think it's the second song on the original side. In that particular song, I did play all the guitars. So all the guitars that are on there, except for the lead guitars, that's Joe. So I want to make sure that we understand.
Right.
But all those background guitars that are really heavy metal, big fat sounding guitars, that's me playing one guitar, but probably multi-tracking it, overdubbing it maybe 4 to 6 times, so that it gets that volume, it gets that
Right.
breadth and the
Right.
depth of sound. So that's kind of an explanation as to how I put the record together, and had other people come in and interpret what I was doing.
Now you had Buckethead on one of your songs, right?
Bumblefoot.
Bumblefoot, Buckethead. I'm old for pardon me.
He's such a good guy. I think he'd laugh his ass off if he heard that. But
You can
Ron,
just tell him that Bob had a little frontal dementia going on. So
Thanks, Jimmy.
well, that's why he'd laugh, because he's probably got some going on too. So
exactly.
We
Who
all do,
doesn't?
I think.
But
Hirsch, I know
Yep.
you guys. Paul Stanley produced your first album, correct? The first
Yes.
Liquid album. You got who? Paul Stanley discovered you guys, right? Or was
in a
that
roundabout
Gene?
way.
Yeah.
Bill O'Coin was our manager, and Bill O'Coin also managed Kiss.
Right.
So obviously he was managing Kiss for years, and then we came on board. And for the first album, so we were searching for a producer, and several producers came up in conversation. Todd Rundgren, Mutt Lange, even Brian May from Queen.
Wow.
The availability was what was important, because we were ready to go. And then Bill said, "Well, listen, what do you guys think about having Paul Stanley produce your band?" And we went, well, like, whoa, that was kind of like came from out in left field, something you guys could relate to. So Paul came up to my little rehearsal studio in Braintree, Massachusetts, just south of Boston, and we rehearsed with Paul for a couple of days. And man, we just hit it off. He is a consummate professional. Here's a guy that is one of the most famous rock stars in the world, and we're this young upstart band. I mean, how cool is it to be in the same room with this massive rock star, who's inspiring you to be at the same level that he is?
That's awesome.
And that's what a producer is all about.
Right.
I've been producing bands for years, and a lot of these bands come in, they're young, and they really don't have an idea what to do in the studio. And I have to inspire them. Paul did the same thing for us. From a musical standpoint, he was great. I mean, he'd recorded at that point probably 6 or 8 albums with major producers all over the world. So it was a good thing. Paul did a great job on that.
It was
first
a
album.
learning curve, wasn't it? It was pretty much a learning curve.
Yeah, that was the first. I think that was the first and only album he produced. And he did such a great job. But we were in good hands.
Well,
you kind of answered the question I had, is about a producer. What does a producer of an album, a CD, whatever, I would think that the band has a pretty, or maybe not, now that I heard, but the band has a pretty good idea of what they want to play. Their favorite songs, the songs they think they're best at. Does a producer, is he going to override that, or is it a mutual decision with the band, or I mean, how does that all work? Is he the captain, and you kind of go, with his suggestions because he's been there, or how does that work?
Well, it's it can go many different ways, but let me just draw a line down the middle, and we'll try to stick with that. When I'm producing bands, the first thing I do is I listen to the band live, and then I want tapes of the songs that are going to be on the album, and then I'll sit with those tapes, and I'll listen to the arrangement of the song. So let's just go through a quick arrangement of a song. So there's an intro, which is maybe four measures, da 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 da, first verse. I'll listen to the first verse. I'll listen to the lyrics. I'll listen to the melody. I'll listen to the chords. Do they all jive? Do they make sense? And are they commercially acceptable for the audience that the band is going to be hoping to gather in? Then the chorus comes up, which is probably the most important part of any song. Well, is it a hook? Is it going to compete with the top 10 hit singles that are out there today? If it doesn't, then it's up to me to make sure that I change that with the band. I don't want to be a writer unless I'm asked to be a writer, but then I'll work with the band and the writers in the band to, hey, listen, you've got that chorus there, and there's four lines in the chorus, and usually a chorus might be A, B, A, B. So, oh, baby, I love you. I want to take you home. Oh, baby, I love you. I want to take you home. Something like, so it's repetitive so that, it's commercial. But they may have it, the arrangement to be A, B, C, D. And I'll just take the best lyric out of that and try to direct the band to have that chorus to be something more of a hook. So you get where I'm going with that? It's kind of,
yeah.
You've got to work with the artists and make sure that you're not bumming them out. If they're really adamant that they want A, B, C, D, well, at one point I'm going to go, hey, cool. If that's what you want, then I'm not believing in it as much as I'd like to, but hey, it's your record, so let's do that. Yeah.
Do you get the whole spectrum too of a band that they're pretty set of what they want to do, and hey, thanks for the info, but we're gonna do it. Or on the other end of the spectrum, a band says, hey, listen, I'm putting everything in your hands. You tell us, here's our songs. You tell us what to do with them.
Good question. It could go a couple of ways. I could say thanks very much for the invitation, but I'm not interested. If I think it's just going to be a waste of everybody's time, if it's
Right.
if it's and it could be that it's just not really commercially viable. It's a paycheck. I'm getting paid to do the job, but I want to work on something that I'm going to enjoy and love, and people are going to listen to it and they're going to have respect for what the band is doing. So that could be a possibility. I've worked with bands that don't need a whole lot of arrangement production. All they need is a guiding force in the studio, which is kind of the way New England was with Paul Stanley. We were all set. Paul did make some changes, which we accepted and was, oh, that's cool. For instance, Don't Ever Want to Lose You, the song that was our first top 40 hit single, the original version of that did not have a guitar solo in it. And Paul's in the studio with us and he's going, guys, this is a massive rock song. This thing is going to be huge. You got to have a guitar solo in here, So we put a guitar solo in because Paul was a producer. He came up with an idea that, was contrary to where we were at first. But when we heard him say the words, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So you got that flexibility.
Well, in Don't Ever Want to Lose You, it sounds like a perfect, when it came out in the 80s, early 80s, it was almost a perfect prog rock song. You could almost hear some of the old great prog rock bands, Yes, Genesis, things like that. You can hear that in there. And then you go into this rock and roll stuff and it's like, wow, this is really good. It's prog rock meets rock and roll, hard rock roll and roll, hard rock roll, whatever, hard rock and roll. So
well,
that's that. Go ahead, Hirsch.
Well, I take that as a compliment.
Yo, absolutely.
take that as a compliment because the bands that we listened to, in the early '70s were the bands that you just named. I mean, 10cc, King Crimson, yes, Electric Light Orchestra, the Beatles, of course. So yeah, having the word prog behind the name New England is not a bad thing. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought to when I heard it way back when I first heard it. I'm like, these guys, this sounds really good. Of course, and then with the tape player, you had to rewind the damn thing and run it again or the tape out. But I thought, man, these guys are good. It stuck in my head. And then 45 years later, here you are on our show. So
there's one thing that I've always been amazed by, and I can relate it to all four of us in the respects of what we do or did. I'm not going to speak for Dale, but I know that when I worked, especially when we worked the plate, we always had this focus moment all the time. Bob, when he's doing his photography, I'm sure it's the same thing. He walks down the street like I was imagining about you, Bob, the other day when you were walking through Boston and stuff like that. All I could see is your head clicking and saying, "That's a picture. That's a picture. That's a picture."
bingo.
Dale's I'm sure Dale's the same way in some regards, on his experience. But the one thing I always notice about musicians, singers in particular, when they're into a song, it's like they're the only ones there. You can see it in their eyes
Oh yeah.
that no matter what happens, I mean, it would take a nuclear blast to get them out of that mode. Do you find I can just tell by talking to you and reading about you that is it always in there? Is it always going? It never leaves, does it?
You're 100% right. You hit the nail right on the head. Yeah, you've got this zone that you're in, and you're just, when I'm in the recording studio, I'll sing a line, 30, 40 times, if just to get that, that one syllable of a word has to have a certain inflection or a certain emotion attached to that syllable. So, I think that's what you're talking about.
It has to hit just right. And it's just always just bouncing around. I've watched a lot of videos of the Beach Boys of Inside the Music and such. Brian Wilson, I mean, they put the camera on him, and I don't even think he knows the camera's on him when he's doing what he's doing. He's glazed over. He's doing nothing but listening, and you can see it in his head almost. And then when he's singing, and I'm sure you're the same way, that when you're singing, it's lights out time and it's just flowing. If I'm even giving it justice.
You're giving it total justice, and it's it's part of what all four of us do. This is part of what we do, and you get that. There's got to be an emotional connection to the physical thing that you're doing, and if I'm recording a song, that's the physical thing that I'm doing. And that every syllable, every word. When I'm playing drums, it's the same thing. Every time I hit that snare drum, it's got to have that same, it's that same vibe, that same sound, the same feel. So yeah,
I don't know if I'm overstating that, but I watch a lot of music videos. I listen to a lot of music like Bob does, and I can feel that part of watching somebody do it and watching. Now Dale and I would be probably a little bit opposite that we're glazed over when somebody's screaming at us and we're screaming back.
Well, I'm really into that moment also. Yeah.
Yeah, that never happened to you, did it?
No, I've glazed over a lot, but it was right during a pitch, and that's not a good time to do it. Hirsch, kind of on that same vein as, focus or always in, just always thinking about it, or Bob thinking about, you see something that'd be a great picture or whatever. From interviews I've seen or read, songwriters, they'll hear something and go, man, that's a title. That's a great title. Or man, that would be a that would be a good lick or something. I mean, a phrase or something, and just how to maybe just very random, and all of a sudden they go, whoa, that sound. I got to remember that. Is that kind of how writing goes? As far as I know, it's more than that, but I mean, is that part of it?
You see this?
Yes. Yeah.
The notebook. It's like it's always there. Now I use my phone if I'm driving. I'll talk into the phone if I think of a lyric or something like that. So the answer to your question is absolutely, because anything that any one of us say could turn into a full story, and that's what a song is. It's a story about something.
Well, the perfect example is Joe Walsh had that ding, 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 ding. It was a warm-up exercise, and Don Henley went, "What the fuck is this? This is awesome!" And it turned out to be Life in the Fast Lane. That was the intro. That was his finger exercise. That's what he did. And then they're like, "Holy crap! Listen to this." That's where it came from. And
that's funny. You should say that, Bob, because I just watched the Eagles documentary, that 3 hour.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
which came out a few years ago. And I saw it then, but I rewatched it just like 3 days ago. And I remember that, and I remember there was another part of that where, like I was talking about, there was some phrase, and Glenn Fry went, "Whoa, that's a song."
Exactly.
I don't have the lyrics to it yet, but that's a song.
Yeah, they were on. I think it was when they were on the freeway, and they were both holding, and they're going to a poker game doing about 100 miles an hour down the Hollywood freeway. And of course, Glenn's shitting his pants, and the driver's like, "Life in the fast lane, baby," and that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
man,
never
cool.
know. You
cool.
never know. It is, as Hirsch will probably agree. A lyric can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can hear something and boom, hey, I got something for that.
Hirsch, did songs that you've written, have some come together like with jet speed, and other times it's taken months to finish, writing one?
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I'm always recording, because I'm at home right now in my recording studio, and so if I think of if I'm playing guitar and I just have a chord progression, and all of a sudden I'll come up with like a one sentence line that could be part of a song. I'll just throw it in the computer and then leave it there, and then come back to it at some point and go, "Oh man, that's incredible. That was a great line." And then from there you could develop the whole song. Wow, I'm thinking about some of the songs that I've written. They usually take a while for me. I've heard guys say, "Well, man, I came up with this line, and within 10 minutes I had a complete song." I can't recall any of my songs that have happened like that. It's like pulling teeth, man. It's
right.
But
right.
but I just throw down all the ideas, whether it's a complete a complete thought, a complete story, or not. It's always there in the computer, and I can listen back and go, "Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I'll make a song out of that."
Yeah.
When you were with New England, when you got your first album, was it everybody Jimmy and everybody contributing to this? Like, Don't Ever Want to Lose You. Let's use that. Did everybody have input in that, or was it just like a one or two man process? And
No.
the guys just played.
Yeah, basically, John Phantom was the chief songwriter in the band back then. We were all songwriters to a certain extent. Jimmy not as much, Gary maybe a little bit more, and maybe me more than the other, those two guys, but not as much as John. John was extremely prolific, and when we put the thing together, it's John's songs came up first. We go, yeah, let's do that. As time went on, we started to contribute more, and more of it was accepted into the band. But let me give you an example. I had one of the songs that's on my latest album called "Angel in the Sky," which is absolutely gorgeous song. People are really, really liking that song. That song I presented to New England. Let's see, when was that? That was actually, we did the 3 albums, then we were going to be recording our 4th album, and the band broke up at that point because the label dropped us and all that mess happened. And then during the time that we were going to be putting our 4th album together, I believe I wrote this song, "Angel in the Sky," which is completely different than the one that we have today. and the band basically was like, yeah, let's do that. We messed around with it and it didn't really go anywhere. Hence I had that song idea. The lyrics were all done with completely different music. When I put this new album together, I listened to the old song and I go, man, that song was really cool. And then I was working with my co-producer, Chris Laney. Chris is in a band called Pretty Maids out of Sweden. Actually, the maids are out of somewhere in Europe, one of those countries. And I sent I came up with a whole new music bed for that set of lyrics. So that set of lyrics had been around for quite some time. And of course, I changed a bunch of the lyrics as well for the new album. But Chris heard the new version and fell in love with it, and ended up being a co-writer on that song with me. So I think I strayed from your original question about New England and the songwriting, but that's a little bit how it goes when you're a songwriter and you're working with other people. You can collaborate with them, or just one person can come up with a song just all by themselves, and the band can accept the arrangement the way it is. So there's so many different variables when it comes to that.
And it's just the business side of it. It's important to, if you are as part of the writing team, that's and the publishing of rights and that kind of stuff. I mean, in other words, if you wrote a song and I added just a little bit and I didn't get a credit for it, I'm not going to get any credit for that song. I mean, in publishing or anything else, or am I barking up the wrong guitar here?
Well, there's I'm going to try to think of some bands that may have split everything down the middle.
I think
Some bands,
U2 is one of them. I think U2 does that. They split everything down the middle.
right? And
Yeah.
it's so if Bono's writing everything, then he's the songwriter. But if they could also just say, they could list the three guys, and so there's two parts of getting paid. There's the songwriters, and then there's the publishing part, and there's 50-50. So if you're splitting all of that, that makes for an easy way to move forward. A lot of bands don't do that, and end up breaking up because one guy feels that he put a part in the song that meant a lot to the song, but he didn't get any songwriting credit for that or publishing. And that's where it gets a little bit confusing. In the rock era, things changed from the pop era of the 50s. If songwriting in the 50s, and it continues on, I guess, but was basically melody and lyrics. So if you wrote the lyrics, like Lerner and Lowe, or name a popular songwriting team from back in the old days, one person would write the lyrics, the other person would write the melody, not the chords, but the melody, and those were considered the songwriters. When the rock and roll era came about, you had everybody contributing to every single part. And let's say the drummer in the band did some incredible drum fill to start the song. Well, maybe he felt that he should deserve to get a part of the songwriting because that was a really attractive part of that song. So things changed a little bit from the 50s when there were, melody and lyrics were considered songwriting, to the rock era where kind of anything goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind for me is Hotel California with Fingers Felder. He had the opening for it, and he's still pissy about it with the Eagles, but 45 years later, and of course, it is what it is.
Well,
Yeah,
again, going back to the Beatles, Lennon and McCartney, they started writing everything together when they started. Then a lot of songs later on they just wrote separately, but they just kept putting Lennon McCartney on there, just
Right.
and didn't bother to try to split it up or whatever.
And then they got in pissing matches after the fact.
Well, Jimmy, you have to bring up the negative.
Absolutely, always. I'm that type of person. So, but
believe me,
go ahead.
Well, believe me, if you're in a band, there's going to be a lot of positive and negative on both ends.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
When Dale brought that up, that just pops into my head because I'm a huge Beatles fan, and
exactly.
But when you say that though, it really is amazing because it did spur arguments in interviews Lennon would say that McCartney had nothing to do with, I'm trying to just think, Hey Jude. He had nothing to do with that. Well, then you ask McCartney, McCartney would say, no, that's not really true because I sat right next to him when I wrote a lot of the lyrics and stuff. But what I would like to maybe kind of get into a little bit is when I referenced you as like a five-tool baseball player, you are that in the music industry, meaning musician, producer, writer. You have your own studio where you
Singer.
together, singer.
Arranger.
What part of all that? What do you enjoy the most? Which one of those things, if you could just pick one, which one is the best thing that you do?
Wow.
That's a great question, Jimmy.
When I was on the road with New England, it was the drums. I mean,
Okay.
I lived for that. I mean, can you imagine playing in front of 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden? Well, I guess you can because
We
you've been
did.
out there.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we did.
so you know how it feels. But that was just sensational because you're having, you're so physical and you're so emotional and everything is working in your body and you're transmitting that feeling to the 20,000 people that are sitting in front of you. What a great feeling. Now, today, I love singing. For the last three solo albums that I've done, of course, I'm the lead singer on all those albums. It is such an emotional moment when I'm actually in the studio producing that song and singing that line, 30 times to get that inflection that I spoke about earlier
Right.
of that one syllable correct. And that's a great feeling. So,
See,
um,
it's actually an unfair question. It really is because I just know that from what Dale and I did our adult lives, and I know what you mean. We, in a sense, had to perform every night also, but it's such a but we've always been asked those questions. Okay, do you like working first base better than you like working home plate? Stuff like that, or what was your, you know, we did five different kinds of things too. But I know it's an unfair question, but I've always wondered that because there's so much going on that something has to be a favorite. So I can understand, especially the first part, but as your life progresses, it probably changes a little bit,
yeah.
especially when the writing comes about, I would imagine.
I was just having a thought while you were speaking, and I'll just throw this out on the floor. Um, Probably the most enjoyable thing that I've got going on right now is late at night, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll come down to the studio, put the headphones on, and crank up the new album. Now, I don't do this that often because, but boy, I'll tell you, what a great feeling it is to listen to what you've just
Right.
spent the last
Oh,
2 years doing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And listening to the tracks. And when I listen to a song, I listen to it with several different hats on.
Right.
I listen to it as a lead singer. I listen to it as a record producer. I listen to the engineering part of it. Listen to the drumming. Listen to Joe Filoni's guitar parts and Bumblefoot's guitar parts. So that's one of the most enjoyable things that I've done recently is just take a step back and go, okay, the record's done. It's all finished. And I'm just going to sit here and enjoy it like I'm just a listener. And
Well, it's,
that's
it's such a sense of accomplishment.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
I think that's fascinating, actually. I think that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Hirsch, when you guys like you're playing a gig, say you're at Madison Square Garden, you're with New England, and you come off, I don't know how it was there, but when you guys are on, everybody's cooking, everybody's on the same page. Do you guys know it when you come off stage? You're like, man, we had our shit together that night, or oh God, we sucked. Um, we've all been there.
We've had both, believe me.
Okay,
Um,
I gotta ask, have you ever in the middle of a song forgot the lyrics?
oh, damn. I'm sure I have. I can't think of an instance right now, but and then And then it just becomes, yeah, don't ever want to lose
You know,
ya.
when I was working radio years ago, I was 18, 19 years old, and when I was working like the all night shift, and we didn't have a news department or whatever, but if there was some headline or some something important, and I remember one time I it was some foreign policy thing, and the names on there, that I it was like, so I would say, so the prime minister we're having some technical difficulties here. I mean, so, I would just
Right.
because I knew it would be worse if I tried to pronounce this. Can I buy a vowel name? But and the reason I asked that, by the way, is because again, just the other day I was this thing about Frank Sinatra had a video he lost. He forgot the lyrics and somebody jumped in for him. And I mean, that was pretty funny. Um,
Well,
but
we've actually seen that part where it's, oh, say, can you see? Oh shit.
yeah, 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 yeah. We have seen some national anthems
Oh
now.
man.
Oh my.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Every time I hear it now at a Duck game, I get nervous because I think I have to work a game every time I hear
That's
that
right.
song.
Yes.
No,
Gotta strap it on.
Oh my God. So now how much when you're playing with your band, how much New England
Uh-oh.
stuff do you play? I know a lot of it is your solo stuff. How much New England do you play in your sets?
well, it's it can vary depending on the set length, but I'll play as much New England stuff as the band knows because the crowd loves it.
Oh yeah.
It's just, yeah, I mean, and it's just, it's kind of, in today's day and age, tribute bands are huge, and if I'm playing a New England song, in effect, I'm paying tribute to the band that I was playing in, 45 years ago. So, and that resonates with people nowadays because they love hearing the tribute stuff. So why not? You know?
Yeah, I agree.
So if
I
I
agree with that.
Yeah.
if I'm doing
I've,
if I'm doing a
I
12 song set, if I do 6 or 7 New England songs, hey, that's cool.
Well, yeah, because the fans are going to be wanting to yell, no, some of your songs that aren't known, like "No, Don't Ever Want to Lose You," blah blah blah. They're going to go from stuff that aren't really hits. You know what I'm saying? The
Oh,
stuff,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
the stuff that's got a catchy hook or something, and they're like, "Play that, play that." To me, a hook is just about anything that makes you happy. That's my version of a hook in a song that you can relate to. It can be a chorus, it can be a lead, it could be a drum fill, whatever it is. That's just my interpretation. It may be
well,
way off, but that's the way I look at it.
I always thought the same thing that there should be like a disclosure form at the beginning when band on. Listen, we are going to play some of our new stuff. We'll get to the other stuff, the traditional stuff in a little while. But I never thought fans were fair in that regard, where they just want to because actually that's how you get the other stuff going and stuff. And you know what, kids, you might be surprised. So I always thought there should be a disclosure on that, and because I'm terrible at that. I want to hear the old time favorites and everything like that, and but then all of a sudden I hear a new thing and I go, oh, that was pretty cool.
Well, the answer to that is on my new album, the first single that we released was "Don't Ever Want to Lose You," and we did a video for it, which has been out now for probably a month. So
I
any of you
watched it.
fans out there, just go on YouTube and find "Don't Ever Want to Lose
Yep.
You," Hirsch Gardner. But we released that song first because we knew that would capture an audience. The next single may be "Angel in the Sky," and we're discussing the possibility of doing a new video for that song. Now that we've captured the audience, now that they know about the new album and hey, Herschel's new album's out, then they heard "Don't Ever Want to Lose You." When we put "Angel in the Sky" up there, which I fully believe is a top 10 hit single, even in today's market, I think it's an amazing song, and Chris Laney did such a great job, engineering and producing it, co-producing it with me. The people that are going to be listening to that song are going to relate to, the "Don't Ever Want to Lose You" that they first heard, and it's going to be maybe an easier listen for them because they know who it is, they know,
Yeah.
what my lineage is, so to speak. So,
What as a drummer, who are some of the drummers that you grew up with that you really idolize, that you really thought were just fantastic? I'm so bad at names, but the gentleman that just passed away, but he was with Foo Fighters.
Oh yeah. I'm bad with names too.
Yeah, but I tell you
Bill-
what, we saw the Foo Fighters, Mike and I thought that was probably the most incredible drummer I ever saw. I mean, he was unbelievably good. But I was just curious if you have any faves.
well, we'll go back a ways. When I first started playing drums, it was Louis Bellson, Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, the old swing era drummers.
Right.
And I was introduced to that music by my aunt, who just basically would bring over, Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, Artie Shaw, all the big band stuff. And that's when I first started listening to music. I was a jazz drummer. Then as time goes on, then the Rolling Stones came out, and, Charlie Watts is on the Ed Sullivan Show playing, um, oh, what the hell was that song? Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Dot, 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 dot. That drum beat was just so unique and new that, the next day I ran downstairs to my drum set and I learned how to play Satisfaction. So, all the rock drummers that came along, John Bonham, Neil Peart, people like that, they were, I never really honed in on one guy, because I was just too busy playing my own thing and doing
Right.
my own thing. There's a lot of guys who go, yeah, John Bonham's my favorite drummer in the world, and you hear him play, and he plays just like John Bonham. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Right.
The stuff that I'm doing is unique to me, whether it's simple, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. That's just the way Hirsch plays. So
Just for clerical reasons, Taylor Hawkins was the drummer at Foo Fighters that
Yes.
I thought was incredible. But
amazing drummer.
he really was. And the other thing, that, as a drummer, and trust me, I wasn't at your level. It always blew my mind when a drummer was also the singer. Because I thought
Yeah.
when I'm drumming, the last thing I can do, well, I can't sing anyway, but the last thing I could, trying to keep a beat and doing everything else, and then you want me to sing too? I mean, it's insane to me. That's a skill that I thought was amazing, because it blew my mind that anybody could do it, quite frankly. Do you obviously you sing as you drum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a work. It really is. You've got four appendages that are basically doing different things,
Right.
and now you have a fifth appendage, which is your mouth.
Right.
And you're singing something like don't ever wanna lose ya, da 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 da, and you're playing doo doo da da doo doo da da. It's
Right.
just like, how do you melt all that stuff together? There are certain songs that I sing. Nothing to Fear is a New England song that I
Yes.
covered on the new album. When I'm playing that song and singing at the same time, that is a challenge, because my just the rhythm of the lyrics that I'm singing is completely off from the drum beat.
Right.
And I actually have to practice that to make sure that the bass drum falls where it's supposed to fall, and my lyric doesn't go off tempo. And yeah, it's a chore,
Yeah. Well, more power to you.
Dale doesn't usually bow to too many people, so
Well, I'm just saying.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
I always heard for drummers, the very first song they ever learned to play was Wipeout.
Oh
Is
my
that-
God.
Is that true?
I learned that song.
Yeah, I
I've heard
I
that
don't know.
too, Jimmy.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I was always into guitar, never into drums. So, but I always heard that was the, you had to learn that. That was the one thing you had to learn. It's
Either that or the riff for Smoke on the Water. Every guitar player knows.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows that riff.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
absolutely.
Every guitar player can play that. That's like the first thing you learn, I think, in Guitar 101.
Jimmy, you get a guitar, I get drums. Maybe we could, start something up.
Yeah,
Power
get booed
trio.
get booed off the stage.
Well, we've been booed before. What the hell?
Yeah, that's true. We're used to that.
You can't be Hirsch is going to be the drummer, man. You got to play bass or something. I can sing.
No, Hirsch is going to be. Dale can't sing, so Hirsch is going to be
Yeah.
the singer.
We got our singer.
I'm in.
Are you in, Hirsch?
I'm in.
You're
Love it.
I think we'd be having too much fun just laughing and going, "Oh shit, this sounds like crap."
I can book the Elks Club in Veneta.
Well, you said well, you said we'd get booed off the stage. At least we got on the stage.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hirsch, let me. We don't have much time here. I know you got stuff to do, and it's almost 9 o'clock back east, so got to put the cans on the list of music tonight, right?
There you go. That's it.
That's it, brother. I'll be the same thing tonight. Is there what is the hardest song for you when you were with New England? What was the hardest one for you guys to play live to make it sound that good? Because I
Wow.
know, like Lucia, there's so many parts to that song with the keyboards and the drums and everything else. It's like, I mean, a melting pot of all these different sounds. Was that a hard song to replicate live?
No. It's a simple answer. Um, I'll tell you what, we we were so well rehearsed before we actually did our first gig. Um, and the band, for the 4 or 5 years that we were together and touring, we were so well rehearsed that even the song Explorer Suite,
Oh yeah,
which is as prog as you get,
absolutely.
um, we would pull that song off, and people were just like, I can't believe that you guys played that song live. Because there's so many different parts. John's playing piano, Jimmy's on keyboards. There's no guitar in the song. Gary's on bass. I'm singing lead and background and playing drums. Even a song like that, we were so well rehearsed that there was nothing that was like really challenging that was scary to play. And I think that kind of reflected with the audience knew that. I mean, there was such a level of confidence when we played. It was funny. So we broke up in 83, 82, 83. And then 25 years later, we did our first gig together again. And it was a benefit concert that a friend of mine asked us to play in Boston. So, Jimmy and Gary flew in from LA, and John and I were here in Boston. We rehearsed for 2 or 3 days. And then we went out and we did a 1 hour set. Well, we were so well rehearsed 25 years ago that when we got together to rehearse those 3 days for this one gig, I counted in the first song that we played at the rehearsal studio was Alone Tonight, which is one of the New England's songs off the first album. I counted the song in, and 4 minutes later, when the song ended, we all just looked at each other and went, "Are you fucking kidding me?" That was incredible. I mean, there was no mistakes. The background vocals were perfect. All the harmonies were right there. We started and ended the whole song together, and there was nothing wrong in the middle of it, which, speaks volumes about the quality of
Absolutely.
musicianship
Right.
in the band.
Right.
And it's 25 years later, and we'd all gained 25 years of playing experience.
I thought you were
And
going
the
to say
song,
25 pounds.
and 25 pounds, and the song never sounded better.
Well, the
That's
thing with
awesome.
you guys is when I first heard the first New England record, I thought these guys' harmonies, they're incredible. It's so blended. It's like it's a perfect, it's seamless. You guys had the great harmonies through all your songs. Was that an I don't want to say easy, but did it take a long time to blend all the harmonies together to get everybody's voices right, the vocal range and everything?
Well, you got three singers in the band that are
Right.
basically three lead singers. And one of the things that we'd always do is we would have vocal rehearsals, just an acoustic guitar, and just sing the harmonies and the choruses together. So you get three guys going, hello, hello, hello. And that last hello, it's got to cut off on that exact beat, right?
Right.
It was that tight. It was almost like we didn't have it written down and we're not reading the music, but it's like when you listen to an orchestra play, there's no flaws. Everybody's like right on the money. And with New England, with our background vocals, we were always just right on the money because we rehearsed and practiced hours and hours and hours to make it sound like it did. That was a commitment. That was a job. A lot of bands don't do that.
I know.
I was-
Yeah. I know.
And when I go hear a band, I can tell how much time and effort that they put into that rehearsals, before they got on stage. And that makes a difference to me anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you
Absolutely.
know, when you're out there, you want to sound as good as you can. And, you know, if a guy's off, it kind of takes down from you guys. You know what I mean? If somebody's off key or whatever, or you know, on something or whatever, it doesn't matter if
Yep.
it's New England or any band. You know, Aerosmith, a perfect example. What Tyler was, Steven Tyler was going to show up. You know, back in the day, you know, some of the times he was just completely out of it. Or Ozzy Osbourne. You know, I saw them, Ozzy at Anaheim Stadium with Boston in '78. He was so out of it. I mean, he was, and he got fired right after that. He was so messed up. You couldn't understand a word he said, but that's Ozzy.
Just
Still
You
can't.
yeah.
know?
I've got the Rosetta Stone Ozzy, and it'll
Can you say that to
decipher.
me, Dale?
Yeah, it's not bad. Actually, Rosetta said, I don't know. I can't. I have nothing.
Well, I mean, it's a musician. You know, musicians. I tell people all the time, musicians are different cats. They're different people, and I can gravitate to them because
Because you're a different person.
well, yeah, absolutely. So are you, Dale. You know, I mean, come on, we're the same, okay? Jimmy's the normal one in the group. We're the ones that are out
Well,
there.
that's saying
Wow.
something.
I know.
Wow. Man,
No,
if I'm the normal one.
I
Yeah.
know. So Hirsch, I think we're going to let you go. We're up against it. Again,
We're
thank
gonna
you.
release you. You won't have to go through this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm out of
I,
here.
yeah, you're out of
Get
here.
out
So
of
you see what I got to put up with, Hirsch. I mean, it's Dale's show, and we just show up.
Well,
So I just want to hear one of you say, "You're out."
well, you probably heard his strike zone or a strike call 2 or 3 time zones away. Uh,
Jimmy had a loud strike call.
Yeah.
Hirsch, buddy, it's always good talking to you. Remember, next time I'm in New England, we're going to a Bruins game. I got my stuff
Amen.
ready, you know. So get your Leaf sweater ready.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he's Hirsch Gardner. His new CD is Third Time's A Charm, not the charm, A Charm. It's out now, and don't ever want to lose you. Listen to it again, like you're hearing it for the first time. It's awesome. Hirsch, thanks for coming on. We'll
Hirsch, thank you
have you
so
again on
much.
Hirsch,
here.
thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
And
Guys, thank you very much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate, what you do and helping me, promote my album and bringing me out to the people. So I appreciate you all. Thanks so much.
Well, I just think the
Absolutely.
story is fascinating. I think the story behind everything is fascinating.
And
So
everybody's got a story.
that's
absolutely.
it. Yeah, that's our show.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got a story. So, again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. He's Hirsch Gardner. He's Dale Scott, Jim Joyce. I'm Bob Busser. Remember, always take the road to the left. Don't be a sheep. Don't be a follower. You never know what you'll find.
Bye
Thank you, Dale. Okay, guys, thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
bye.